千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Daodejing by Lao Zi. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now. To be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process of the Tao. This story is called Eliminate Three Horrors. As you can see at the bottom, in Chinese, 周楚除三害. So let me tell you what that story is. Once upon a time in ancient China, there was a young man by the name of Zhou Chu. This particular young man was special. He was naturally gifted with great strength. Just a powerful guy. And by virtue of being the most powerful around, strength-wise, he always did everything his way. He got whatever he wanted. He did whatever he pleased. He never gave it a second thought. He caused a lot of trouble. He easily dominated everyone in his environment. Wasn't necessarily out of malice, but still, he caused a lot of problems. People were afraid of him, afraid of his great strength. People avoided him whenever possible. Now, he was oblivious to all this. He never paid too much attention. He was not aware of the way that people saw him, the way people looked at him. He just went on living his life, kind of happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Now, in that area, in the area where he lived, there's a nearby mountain, and there was a fierce tiger that lived in the mountain. This fierce tiger posed a lot of problems to the human population there because it often came down from the mountain to terrorize the farmers and cattle. Although there were hunters in the area, they were no match for the fast, cunning, and powerful predator. They couldn't do anything. Now, as if that wasn't enough, in that area, there was also a monstrous water serpent in the river below the bridge. That, just like the tiger, the serpent often emerged to terrorize the fishermen and ferrymen. So the people there had no idea how to capture or kill this beast. So the tiger was bad enough, and they also had this monstrous water serpent to worry about. And in fact, the people there spoke of the tiger, the serpent, and Zhou Chu, this young man, as the three horrors. And when they discussed the three horrors, they all agreed that Zhou Chu was probably their biggest problem. The tiger, the serpent, you could maybe get far away from them, but it seemed like you could never get far enough away from Zhou Chu, the troublemaker. So one day, this young man, Zhou Chu, noticed a whole bunch of elderly people in his village. They all seemed rather unhappy. So he noticed this and he got curious. So he approached one of them, one of the elders, and he asked, "It's a good year, isn't it? It's a good year for harvest, plentiful harvest. There's widespread prosperity, so things are good. The weather is good. Why do you seem so unhappy?" So the old man replied, pulling no punches. The old man said, "We're still troubled by the three horrors. What reason do we have to be happy? So the old man was rather blunt. He did not gloss over anything. He just told him straight up, it's because of the three horrors. Zhou Chu became curious. Three horrors? What are you talking about? What are the three horrors? And again, the old man was blunt, held nothing back. He point blank said to Zhou Chu, well, look, tiger in the mountain, serpent under the bridge, and you, 1, 2, and 3, the three horrors. So Zhou Chu, the young man, was surprised to be one of the three. So he turned this over in his mind, and then he said, okay, well, since everyone is troubled by the beasts, I will find them and I will eliminate them. Okay? So he armed himself and he went into the mountain. That was the first task. After much tracking, he eventually was able to locate the tiger. He found the tiger. The tiger pounced on him, fierce and dangerous as ever. But Zhou Chu was ready with bow and arrows. He shot his arrows. The arrows found the mark. The fierce tiger was struck several times. He tried to get those arrows out in vain. They protruded from him. It struggled for a while in great pain. It was mortally wounded. After a while, the tiger was dead. So that was the killing of the first horror. So then next, Zhou Chu dove into the river to battle with the serpent. This proved to be much tougher than the tiger. He struggled with the serpent, wrestled with it, he stabbed at it, he attacked it. The serpent in turn tried to crush him, and they fought like this while going downstream for many miles. The serpent tried to escape, and Zhou Chu swam after it, and eventually the two of them, Zhou Chu and the serpent, disappeared from view of the villagers, going further downstream. Now, a few days passed after that battle. There were still no signs of either the serpent or Zhou Chu. The villagers figured, well, if the serpent was to appear, but then they don't see any sign of Zhou Chu, then they can pretty much safely conclude that the young man had filled the belly of the monstrous serpent. Or if it was the other way around, if Zhou Chu appeared but no serpents, then he succeeded in killing the serpent. This was the best of all possible worlds. Neither one of them emerged, which meant they probably both perished in the battle. So this was a cause for celebration. They decided to put together a celebration, a massive celebration about the total elimination of all three horrors. So everybody is happy, everybody is, having a great time. And in fact, Zhou Chu was not actually dead. He was exhausted after slaying the serpent, but still very much alive. He had to rest for hours to recover his strength. But then after that, he was able to start back to the village with slow, painful steps. When he finally made it back to the village, he saw the celebration that was taking place. Right in the middle of the celebration, he barged in and he assumed, oh, everybody must be celebrating me because I killed the two gray horrors. But then people saw him, oh, it's you. They seemed surprised, and not in a good way. Like, instead of, oh, you, the great hero, yay, people saw him was like, oh, it's you, oh, bummer. After a while, he found out that they were so happy right before they saw him, only because they thought he was dead along with the other two beasts. The celebration had signage, had posters, and actually included his supposed death as a big part of the celebration. This finally drove the point home for Zhou Chu. It dawned on him just how much he was feared and disliked by everyone. They were celebrating his death. So, depressed, he decided to leave the village and study with a teacher in order to figure out what to do with his life. He said to his teacher, "I am sorry I never realized my faults until recently. I wasted a lot of precious time. Now I want to walk the right path, but I am afraid it may be too late." His teacher said, "Do not be discouraged. You have made a commitment to yourself, so it is never hopeless." His teacher turned out to be correct. It was as if Zhou Chu became a completely different person. He was considerate, he was self-aware, he was someone who treated others with respect. He won a lot of praise as someone who made valuable contributions to society in many different ways. After a few years, everyone recognized that Zhou Chu had transformed himself from a horror to a legend. So indeed, it was true. Zhou Chu succeeded in eliminating the three horrors, including himself. The end. So I want to talk about this story for just a moment. This story is often told by Tao masters when discussing and explaining this particular chapter of the Daodejing. So I would like to explore with you the various aspects of it, the symbology, the representations, etc. What is the Tao of this story? So let's think about the main character, Zhou Chu. In the beginning of the story, he was a bad person, the unkind person, the person who was not skillful about the art of living life. So the beginning of this chapter talks about 不善人, the bad person. He was ignorant of the Tao. He was not receptive to the Tao. Perhaps had no idea what the Tao was. And without a doubt, the second point was that he was lacking in self-awareness. He didn't know how people thought of him. He had no idea. He just assumed that they were fine with him. He lacked all self-awareness. That's a defining characteristic of someone who is not cultivating the Tao. And lastly, in number 3, we can all see that in the beginning of the story, Zhou Chu was far from living up to his full potential. So now we can see little echoes of ourselves in this main character. At least we have become aware of ourselves and the Tao. At least we're studying and learning about the Tao together. So we're a little bit better off, but we're also like him in that we have not yet lived up to our potential. So this is the illustration of this chapter where Lao Zi says, those with guilt will not be faulted because the Tao itself doesn't fault anyone. It simply is. It simply does what it does. The faulting has to be done by human beings, and the guilt is felt by human beings, and that's it. Human beings have a chance to make amends. It's never too late. And then those who seek will find. So at the end of the story, Zhou went forth seeking the Tao, seeking understanding, enlightenment, a way to make himself better. And he found the right path for himself. So this is why we talk about those with guilt will not be faulted. Everybody has a chance to turn things around. And that's one of the things that makes the Tao of great value, is because this is what it does. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us all travel safely so we can meet again. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.